What is up, guys? It's Doo Poker here, back for another video. Today we are going to be talking about how to play fish in 3-bet pots after checking back flop. If you don't know, you're supposed to check back flop more than theory when you are the in position pre-flop raiser, and your opponent is the out of position pre-flop caller. So if you want to learn more about that, watch yesterday's video, but today we're going to be talking about turn and river play when we check back flop. So the flop goes check, check, and we're on the turn. Now, against the fish, two scenarios will happen. They either probe the turn or they check to us. So let's think of a hand and think of what we do in both situations. So let's say we have queen, jack of spades. We are on the button. Our fish friend RFIs. We have queen, jack of spades. We 3-bet and he calls. Now the flop comes 8-7-4, a very bad board for our hand. Now the fish checks to us. Now you should always be checking back in this situation because we know from theory they overcall flops. They also overdonk turns, and this is a donk spot anyways. So 3 reasons why you always want to check back. Queen, jack of spades. So let's say we check back. Now, let's say the turn is a 10. Two scenarios are going to happen in this spot. The fish is either going to probe or the fish is going to check. Now, we need to know how to play versus both situations. Let's go to the first situation where they probe. So let's look at MDA for the field as the 3-bet pot at a position pre-flop caller, cut off first button when they probe on the turn. What do you guys notice? Let's blow this up and put this right here so you guys can see it. We see the fish are probing maybe on the high side of GTO, but that's not what we're concerned about. We're concerned about the folding frequencies when they probe. What do you guys notice? If they probe 30% pot and we raise 3.5x, they're overfolding between 10 and 15% of the time. What happens if they go 50? Well, again, there's an overfold, not as big, but still an overfold. What about 70? Now a smaller overfold, but still an overfold. So you want to be raising turn probes versus fish in this formation much more than theory. So let's go back to the original hand history. Let's say he probes 40%, and we have a hand like queen jack. You should just always raise here and expect an overfold of 10 to 15%. This is a very good exploit against fish. They probe too much and they also overfold. So let's go to the second scenario. Let's say instead of probing, they check. Now, should I be delayed c-betting or should I be checking back in this formation? Let's take a peek. This is the field as the 3-bet pot at a position pre-flop caller. Cut off first button. What do you guys notice? If they check on the turn, there is going to be an overfold, but you want to use proper sizing. What is the best sizing to use for our delayed c-bet against a fish? Well, the highest EV sizing is going to be an overbet, but the problem is we have to play rivers. If we use this sizing of 120% and he calls, we cannot profitably bluff the river. So in order to profitably bluff the river, we want to use a more reasonable sizing of around 70% or even 50%. Either one of these sizings is great. Do not use this sizing because it's too weak. These two sizings will be better. Use bet 50 or bet 70 because not only do you get an overfold, but you don't strengthen his range so much that you can't bluff rivers. Remember, if you want to bluff rivers, you have to use bet 50 or bet 70. If you don't want to bluff rivers, then you'd use the bet 120. Either way, we should be delayed c-betting more than theory because there's an overfold if we use bet 50, bet 70, or bet 120. So let's just recap and then we'll go to a different formation. We see that the fish overprobe turn. You want to raise the turn probe more than theory and also delayed c-bet more than theory. Let's see if small blind versus big blind has the same trends. If we look at the field as the 3-bet pot at a position pre-flop caller, in the check-check fold line, Well, we also see them overfolding. The same trend continues. If you use bet 30, they call around the GTO percentage, but if you use 50, 70, or 120, they are going to be overfolding. So use a delayed C-bet sizing of more than 1/3 pot. Let's also check the probes. The field has the 3-bet pot at a position pre-flop caller. We see them probing more than theory, but also folding more than theory. If we raise 3.5x versus a bet 30, they're folding 52%, and GTO is between 33 and 39. Now we also see an overfold at the bigger sizings, but less of an overfold. So attack the probes and delayed C-bet more than theory. Now, if we do bet the turn and they end up calling, we have to look at river MDA. Let's go to fish MDA, check, check call, check fold frequencies as the 3-bet pot at a position pre-flop caller. What do you guys notice from the data? You notice that every sizing is going to be overfolded. If I bet 100, this should be 50 and it's 62%. But we want to know the highest EV sizing. How do I get the highest EV sizing? Well, you have to put all these numbers into an EV calculator and see what sizing has the highest bluff EV. So we're going to use Zamati's calculator, and I put all these numbers into the calculator, and you tell me what's the highest EV sizing. We see that 2 sizings have the highest bluff EV, a 2.1x pot with a bluff EV of 32% and also 1.2x pot. I would just use the 1.2x pot as it's probably easier to remember and more manageable, but both sizings will give you a bluff EV of 32%, which is going to be the highest EV sizing once you delayed C-bet on the turn and you get to the river. We always want to bluff the fish, and it just comes down to picking the highest EV sizing. So in conclusion, what we learned is if we check back flop and they probe, we want to over raise the probe. If they check to us, we want to over delayed C-bet. And if they call our delayed C-bet, we want to be betting around 120% pot on the river because that gives us a bluff EV of 32%. If you enjoy this type of content, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe. New video every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.